Hey guys, welcome to another podcast here. You may recognize this guest, James O'Keefe. He's been on one of the shows recently who actually came on to talk about his story and about oxygen and about breathing and all these different things. And we forgot to talk about breathing.
Yeah, it happens because sometimes when I start opening my mouth, a lot of other stuff comes out.
We ended up chatting for a while, right? We were getting nostalgic about Norwich.
Oh, do you know what? It's like these. I think sometimes, it's hasn't always got to be so regimented and serious, and you know what I mean. And that's what I'm trying to bring into the world into the world.
Yeah.
A bit more, maybe a little bit more fun and a bit more just. Everything hasn't got to be so rigid,
Yeah, exactly. And like we have questions, but like it's
a
bit of freestyling as well.
I think so, and it's funny. Just to start off with the breathing, I literally just said to you a minute ago, "Oh mate, crack the window, please, in here." And and knowing as much as you do about health, like I know a lot, but we can always learn more. And you're like, "Oh, get oxygen in." I was like, "Yes, in a way, but mainly to get the carbon dioxide, the secondhand carbon dioxide that we're breathing." Out. And that is absolutely key, apparently. So again, there's a lot of science in all of this stuff that we're going to talk about. A lot. But you will find anywhere, just like, it's a bit of a full-on thing that I say. If I thought sucking human blood, drinking human blood was good for me, I'd find some evidence, right?
Yeah.
We've all got confirmation bias, sorry. So if you believe that breathing isn't a factor in your life, or it doesn't really matter, you'll find those studies that say it isn't. But if you do think it is, you'll find the studies that are. And there's like ridiculous amounts that say there is, and there's probably some that aren't. But I think looking at the evidence and looking at how we've evolved and all of those things is absolutely key. But going back to the carbon dioxide getting out of the room, the secondhand carbon dioxide, apparently there's a machine that you can get to monitor it. I recommend never getting one because if I got one of them, it'd be horrific. I wouldn't go in a room ever again. So, that's why apparently a lot of the time why we feel so rough when we get off an aeroplane.
Yep.
Because of that stale air and because of the carbon dioxide that we're breathing in, all of that same carbon dioxide, the secondhand. So yeah, there's issues there as well. So, and even if you've got an air conditioning unit, if it's not going directly outside, it's not sucking air out, then that's an issue as well. So, the first tip of the day is just crack a window. Hasn't got to be a lot. At night, crack a window. Just a tiny bit, get a tiny bit of airflow in. That is the kind of. I mean, look, we're trying to optimize people's lives, right?
Oh yeah.
Boom, done. Your first one.
That is. I always sleep with the window open, and people say, "Don't you get cold?" But even if it's just cracked open a little bit,
just a zhuzh,
you sleep better.
Yeah.
Because you're getting that recirculation of air. And so breathing, and I agree again with the confirmation bias, because we've known each other for a few years now, and I said I'd never do ice baths, and I was blocked for so long until I'd done them, and now I've done one every morning apart from if I've done sound at church. So and it's like there's so many studies both ways. Do we need to do them every day? Not really.
No,
but
apparently the studies are 11 minutes a week.
Yeah, and that's added up, like compounded, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
100%.
So, but until I'd done them, I didn't realise the power of doing them.
Yeah.
But it's not just getting in the water. I feel it's that space, it's that breathing added in, and you're there listening in nature. So, why do we need to focus on breathing? Because shouldn't it be something we do anyway?
Yeah, and you're right, and of course it is. It's the only thing we can do consciously and subconsciously. So, we will do it whatever until, our bodies. So I think with breathing, we've got to take a look back. And I was having a chat with my friend the other day, beautiful human being, Jason Vale, the juice master, getting into health, and wellness and all of that. So I love him. And we have these great conversations, and, I'm always looking into stuff and learning, and we're always talking about stuff. And he's great because he always pushes back. why, that's what you want.
Yeah.
I don't want people just going, oh yes,
Just accept it.
no, because, and I was like, there's very few functions for breathing through the mouth. And he went, well, apart from to keep you alive, he said, hold your nose and you'll breathe through your mouth and you'll stay alive. And I'm like, yeah, great. That's true. Okay. So we start from that point. Let's look at that. Doesn't mean it's right though. You know what I mean? It's like anything. Just
because you can do something doesn't
exactly.
mean you should.
If I my body in the morning, right, wants me to stay in bed and eat hobnobs. Categorically. Like every day, my body just says, stay in bed, you'll be safe.
Hobnobs?
Chocolate hobnobs. Nothing will happen to you if you stay in bed and eat hobnobs. Right?
Yep.
So I could listen to that. I could go with that. But is it real? Is it true? Is that the best thing really for me? No. So just because our body has evolved to do something doesn't mean it's evolved in the correct manner. Mm. So evolved doesn't always mean to be better. It just doesn't mean that. So I think we have to look at that from that point of view. So that is like my caveat into that first.
So looking at like the environment, because we can mouth breathe doesn't mean like toxins and everything like that.
Right, exactly. Also, it's like the more we use our mouths to breathe, the less our nose uses the nose to breathe. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna then bias our mouth, and so it's like that. If you don't use it, you lose it, kind of thing. That's what happens if you don't use your nose to breathe. You will lose the function in some way. So it's retraining it. And then we've got to go to anthropology. So let's take a look back over time. And the scientists have done that. People are a lot smarter than me. And there's a lot of them. So...
you said that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so they've looked at the facial structure of human beings over, the time since we've been human beings, which is quite a long time. And the facial structure has completely changed.
Yeah.
So that is a factor into how we breathe now as well. So, you've got all of these things and, then we've got the added stress these days. There's never been a time where we've been more stressed as human beings than now. We've got we're overwhelmed with everything all the time. And that's, toxins in the air, airborne stresses. We've just been through a worldwide pandemic. But what is the real pandemic? Is it now, were a lot of people, were their conditions worsened by the fact they were poor breathing, or has the condition worsened the poor breathing? We were just talking about that.
What came first, the chicken or the egg? Yeah. And when you're stressed, actually, even if you've got a clear nose and I've noticed this myself, that the more stressed I am, the less natural it is to breathe through my nose. Mm-hmm. Even as someone who has done mouth taping and we'll get into in the future and knows the benefits of it, it's just going out of that rest and digest mode into fight or flight. It's almost like I have to breathe through my mouth more.
And that is because that is what happened to us, is like as a human being, that is what we're designed to do. As soon as we go into fight or flight, we are designed to go because that's what gets us alert and keeps us safe. But the issue is now we don't have a woolly mammoth or a bloody leopard coming around the corner. What we have is our wife saying something that's triggered us, or we're having our boss on the phone, and we're having that 50 times a day. Mm-hmm. Not once where then our reaction to that stimulus, that animal coming around the corner, that fight or flight, what was the reaction to that fight or flight mode when we're evolving? We would fight or flight. We would fight or we would run. So the adrenaline would be used. It would actually do something. Our bodies could deal with it. Now we get that fight or flight adrenaline, and then we go, and then we have another one. Then we eat some sugar. Then our cortisol level spikes, and then we have this issue. So it's like, and then we want dopamine. Then we're looking at this or porn or Instagram, and then we're like, so we're constantly up, fluctuating all the time. So how do we think we can then function properly and breathe properly and mentally be aware and okay? And there's a lot that we're, it's not just a simple, people break it very simply down into like different things. And I think if you're in the health space and you're breaking something down just singularly, I think you are, what's the correct word to use here? I think you're misguided.
Yeah, that's the nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
I think that I know myself as I've progressed over the years of doing this for...
Just going to take a sip of this water and this beautiful Ollie Matthews. Oh, it tastes so much better.
The branding makes it so much nicer. For those that are listening...
Yeah, if you've not got one of these yet.
I've lost my train of thought now.
I'm sorry, mate.
Oh, yeah. Over the last however many years, 17, 18 years in this industry, and the way I thought, I look back on some of the things and said in total black and white, this is the way, that is the way. Mm-hmm. And I think, how could I have done that? How could I have, like, something, for example, like when I was competing in bodybuilding in 2008 to 12, like how I would tell some mother with 3 kids and a 9 to 5 that she had to eat chicken and broccoli 4 times a day because that was the way, and do all this extra cardio and smash it and everything. Yeah. But as we adapt and we look at what I call the top-down view of what is the root cause. Yeah. So what is causing the stress? Yeah. And one of the things that I've noticed a lot that is one of the most overlooked is air quality. Mm. And especially when it comes to mold exposure. Mm-hmm. We're in this house now and it's 110 years old, something like that. We've had to deal with mold in this house. Mm. And that's me being on top of mold.
Have you got a in-house air...
We've got purifier in every room.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like a HEPA filter.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
That one probably needs to be changed, the filter in it. But we like to change the filters every 6 months. So we've got a massive one downstairs. Yeah. And it also, like, on that note, actually, when you have these filters and they tell you how bad the air quality is, when you're cooking as well, and you don't think that you're burning the food, and you look at like carcinogens and all the stuff like this, that the air quality gets really bad.
Yeah. And that then goes into beautifully the fact of if we're breathing through our nose, which we are humanly, like, that is what we're supposed to be doing. Like, just straight up. Apparently there's like 32 functions of breathing through the nose, but the 3 main most important ones are that it filters the air. Mm-hmm. So that's huge, right? It moisturizes the air, so it moistens the air. And then third, it warms the air. Now, all of them 3 things are really key for our body and also what it does is it takes the air into our alveoli, which is the little, air sacs in our lungs. And it gets into the kind of lower part of our lungs, which is where it needs to be, rather than just being, like high in our chest. And apparently as well, when you breathe through your nose and you breathe slowly, there's not so much air because there's about 150 mil of air that gets left in our...
When we say air, we saying oxygen, or is it just air? Like
just air, yeah, like when we take a breath in, there's a certain amount of that air that gets left in the kind of passageways and everything before it can go into the chest and the lungs and everything. So there is a kind of when you're working out tidal volume and all of that of breathing, you need to work into consideration that. And this is scientifically proven. It's not me just going, a load of woo-woo stuff. This is science, and that's why I really like the Oxygen Advantage style that I teach, and that I'm very close to being I'm through the course at the moment, but I've been doing breath work for probably 7 years now, and cold water. I started off with the Wim Hof, as everyone does, and then I've kind of morphed into my own stuff, and then recently for the past, well, not recently, the last 2 years I've been doing more of the Oxygen Advantage stuff, and then I've been studying a lot, and then finally I was like, right, I'm going to take my instructor's course, and I want to go on and become a master instructor and stuff in that, because I do believe, again, it's not the only thing could be doing.
It's a piece of the puzzle we
but
need.
It's a really big piece. I genuinely believe it's a huge piece, for mental clarity, for mental health, for, everyday kind of normal function, but then also for optimal health and optimal athlete function.
Yeah.
Because that is where you then go into the next level. Do you want to think better? Do you want to have more energy? Do you want to, because here's the thing. People talk about energy and all that. It actually takes more energy to mouth breathe. So if we're breathing through our nose, not only are we calmer, not only are we getting more oxygen, and we're getting more carbon dioxide in the body, and I'll explain why we need that. We're also, getting more of the... mate, my mind's gone blank now where I was talking about. What was I talking about? I was talking about... energy. So yeah, the energy. So you get more energy... you use less energy breathing through your nose. So if you are, for instance, going on a run, what do you want more of?
Energy.
Right. If you're doing a ultra marathon, let's say, what do you want to use less of breathing? Energy. You want more energy to be in your body, in your legs, in your heart, in your lungs, in your whatever. So if we can work that as well, and you don't have to look, you just have to look now what's going on in the world. There's little pockets of people starting to see unbelievable results by breathing through their nose and breathing lower and slower and using mouth taping, and all of those good things. So it's starting to spread, and it's not a cult, it's not a woo-woo thing. It's backed by a hell of a lot of science.
I used to look at being someone that used to be a nutritionist for professional endurance athletes, and some of the guys we'd work with, and triathletes especially, we were looking at what their fuel strategies would be. And when we got into the ultra distances, we could switch our fuel sources so much better. And actually, one of the first guests on this podcast is a guy called James Lawrence, who was is the Iron Cowboy. He'd done 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 states. Although there was a bit of an uproar because he'd done one of the runs on a cross trainer because he'd smashed or one of his swims or something, technically on the cross trainer, because he smashed his shoulder, tore his shoulder out of place. Right. So then people said it made everything like void. Like, no, he did 50 the distance.
Isn't it funny that
it's the internet hate side of things.
Well, it's just us humans, isn't it? We focus on what didn't happen rather than what did, or what we haven't got rather than what we have.
And there's the whole fuel strategy used to differ because we could get oxygen in because their heart rate was lower. So like he was doing laps on the marathons and he was having like chips and steak and things like that, like fries if people are over in the States. That's another story for the US, English, UK, English and everything. But purely because of that oxygen, like the intake of oxygen. And we look at things such as, like, I deal with a lot of people with severe levels of brain fog, right? And that's oxygen delivery.
Lack of,
right?
Yeah. So there's part of that, definitely. And the real, again, the science behind that is the fact that when we breathe too fast. So again, this is going back to science. Human beings apparently should be breathing to bring in the right amount of carbon dioxide and the right tidal volume of air into our bodies that we need to sufficiently function. This is what they work out on how many times a minute we should be breathing. That's what they work it out on. And there's a lot of people done a lot of studies on this. So apparently human beings at the moment, we're breathing 15 or plus times a minute. Now, apparently that should be down to 4 to 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if we look at that and then think, so then pretty much every human being is hyperventilating.
If it's 4 to 6, that's like twice, even treble.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're probably doing 2 in, 2 out breathing, like
shallow. Yeah.
Maybe not even 2 in, 2 out. Maybe it's 1 in, 2 out. Think about that. Where it should be in a funny word. I'm a bit funny about that word, just so everyone knows. I'm not keen on the word should, but apparently where we should be breathing is 5 in, 5 out. If you want to just optimize, health and then promote carbon dioxide. Which
is it just in and out, or in, hold, out, hold?
If you can get to that point where you go in, but you don't have to hold for another 5. You just go in for 5, gently, out for 5, and then you can hold for 1 if you want. But it's when you get to that point. But the real key is you don't have to count it. You just have to slow it down. That's the key, and just be gentle. So that's the other thing. You can usually tell a dysfunctional breather because you can hear them breathe. Mm-hmm. That's a key point of like, if someone's got dysfunctional breathing, something's wrong if you can hear someone constantly like, or like something is wrong. They're not mindful of it. So we can just be more mindful of it. And what that will do, so scientifically, when you breathe slower and lower, you build up carbon dioxide.
Yep.
Now, carbon dioxide, and the way I describe it, because I have to, because I'm like a child and I kind of like that, is that you've got the hemoglobin, taking your oxygen around your body. So the hemoglobin is a bus, on a road, which is your blood vessels and, all of that, your capillaries or whatever, going around. And then the oxygen are the people on the bus going around. But the people on the bus can't get off the bus without the conductor. Mm-hmm. And the conductor is carbon dioxide.
Okay.
So that's what lets off or lets out the carbon dioxide correctly in the body. And again, this is scientifically proven. So we need an amount of carbon dioxide, the right amount, to then oxygenate our body properly. So, and they've done studies on this again, is that if you can get the carbon dioxide up to the correct level, which is like, I think it's 4.2 millimoles or something, something like that. It doesn't really matter. The literature's there. People want to go and look, oxygen advantage, and, look at all the literature. I mean, there's countless, papers and white papers and scientific research and blah, blah, blah. It's not just, like fugazi, we're not making it up. So, so the carbon dioxide, we need to get enough of that, and then because it's a vasodilator, as well as nitric oxide. So nitric oxide is a vasodilator as well in the nasal cavity and into the lungs. So that helps obviously to get everything, for the carbon dioxide to go in properly, the oxygen to work properly. I mean, so you can then trace it all back and see how it then works, So on a normal thing, if we're on a normal kind of level, let's look at the kind of route. If we breathe in through our nose, then we're filtering the air, and we're then 42% more moisturized or hydrated than we are when we breathe through our mouth. Think about that. I'm going to say it again. You are 42% more hydrated when you breathe through your nose.
That's a big one.
Try and get 42% more hydrated inside of your body in any way.
And look at the problems with dehydration.
What is it?
Higher
Percentage of like, well. Right, but
it's
isn't
like 60-70% water is our body?
But doesn't they say, if you, like in sports and stuff, you hear it all the time,
so
if you're
3%.
Right. If you're 3% hydrated, you're
dehydrated.
Sorry, dehydrated.
3% hydrated, you're dead.
Yeah. Then you get, then your performance suffers by X amount. So imagine being 42% more hydrated. The mind boggles. You know what I mean? My mind is like, so we're more hydrated, so that we've filtered the air, so any contaminants or crap we don't get. Then nitric oxide is produced. Great. Carbon dioxide. So now when our blood is going around our body, it's the vasodilator. So our blood vessels are open a bit more, so the blood flows better. The hemoglobin is flowing better. The oxygen is then able to travel around our body to the areas we need it. Our heart, our kidneys, our lungs, our feet, our hands, our brains. Our brains apparently 10% more oxygenated when you breathe through your nose. 10%.
Wow.
Like, if I could get 10% more out of my brain, that means I'm up to like 2 brain cells. So I'm like, I'm in.
You're in, yeah.
Mate,
All in.
any help I can get to get my 2 brain cells working, I'm in. You know what I mean? So, you know, there's stages, you know what I mean?
With that,
Yeah.
going back to the hemoglobin side of things,
Yep.
and red blood cells and
Yeah.
oxygen delivery,
Mm-hmm.
something I've noticed with working with multiple meat eaters, vegans, and
Yep.
looking at blood tests, and we see signs of anemia,
Yeah.
and people that maybe they have problems with their red blood cells and their RDW, their distribution width, so their cells are different sizes.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't necessarily convert the inactive B12 into active and so on. Are you seeing, or have you even noticed it, more problems with breathing with people that are vegan? Or is it something you're not really even thought of? Is there a correlation?
I haven't seen anything on that.
Be interesting to think of that.
It would be interesting. It would be very interesting. I don't know about that.
No.
I don't know. I do.
And that's not me wanting to just blanket statement say vegan is bad.
Way. Yeah. Again, I don't know what is the best. I genuinely I'm 47 years old and I've tried every diet and everything, and you know, like everything, and I still don't really know. You could argue all day long for whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I do know if you in any way, if you get rid of one food source, apart from sugar, like if you get rid of like one thing out of your kind of what humans eat, then surely we're going to have a deficiency in something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I eat just carnivore, then I'm going to not get the nutrients from vegetables, and I'm also going to have issues there. But if I cut out meat, then surely I'm going to have problems there. The only thing I think we could probably do without is like nasty sugar. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like sugar,
stuff.
the processed stuff. I don't think like fruit. I don't think it's an issue. I don't think. And every now and then, you know, like a bit of sugar isn't gonna, you know,
No,
unless you've got real
the way I look at it
problems.
is getting your body into a place where you can go
manage
out and
it.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people aren't at that place, and to get to that place, they've got to take stuff out.
Yeah.
And that's the hard bit for a lot
Yeah.
of people, because they're literally craving that food all the time.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons they're craving that food is because of stress. But we
Exactly.
could improve our stress management and tolerance
by breathing.
Yeah.
And exactly. So so think about that. If we can calm our nervous system down. So you've got your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system. I'm sure the people looking at this, most of them will know, the smart people, you know. But even if you don't, so the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest. When you breathe through your nose, you automatically go into that. Mm-hmm. So your mouth closes, you then start to build saliva in your mouth. That is when you know it's a physical, like physiological reaction. You know, your body goes into digest, gets ready to digest something. So you get more, you know, liquid in your mouth. So when you breathe through your nose, that's what you're doing. So imagine if you could breathe through your nose while something stressful is going on. So then what if I chose to do something that was stressful, but I could manage my stress response? Okay, so let me think about getting in, let's just say cold water, for instance. Let's say I can get into a 2-degree cold water tank, and at first I'm like, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
what if I can get my breath down to where I can't hear it? I'm producing carbon dioxide, I'm producing nitric oxide. What if I'm then in my parasympathetic nervous system in an environment where everything is saying to me, I'm going to die, get out, this isn't good. You know, chaos. What if I can do that? Surely that then crosses over into my everyday life. And that, Ollie, is where my life has changed. That is the absolute life-changing thing for me about cold water. It's not for my body. It's not for anything else. It is so I can, you know, I've had a mad life, you know, a lot of trauma, a lot of madness, a lot of, you know.
Spoke a lot about that on the last episode.
And I don't hold on to it anymore. And even the story of it, who cares?
It's done.
It's done.
Yeah.
It's like it's dead to me. You know what I mean? It really is. But some of it does kind of stay around a little bit, and then you know you do get a bit reactive to stuff. But I've shown and I've proved to myself, not anyone, I don't care what anyone, really, I have to prove myself, but I've shown myself that I can manage my emotions when everything around me is in absolute chaos.
Yep.
And I'm proud of myself for that. And I'm guarantee if people out there, you want to be able to take management of your life, get your breathing under management in a stressful environment. And that could be sitting at your desk when you're reading an email. That could be when someone is shouting at you. Take a breath through the nose. Take a gentle breath through the nose. Not the old school thing. I want to stop everyone doing this. Children, adults, parents, stop telling people to take a deep breath. Tell them to take a gentle breath. Take a gentle deep breath instead of like a, because that's a deep breath. Take a, and then breathe out for longer, because it's scientifically, again, it lowers the heart rate. So it will calm you down straight away. So in a stressful situation, what do we want to do? We want to be calm. We want to calm our heart rate. We want to calm our mind. Do that. Take a gentle breath in through the nose and out for longer than you took the breath in, and you will feel calmer. Mm-hmm. That is gold standard. If everyone tried to do that before, scenario, I'm sitting here, my wife, you're my wife, okay? You can be that for today, okay?
I had her voice, that'd be good.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And, we're chatting, and then, I'm a bit whatever, I'm feeling a bit whatever today, and I'm sitting, I'm like, and it's getting stressful, and then she says something to me that triggers me, and I'm like, snap. If we could close our mouth, especially as men, because I do work with a lot of men, but everyone, if we could close our mouth and breathe through our nose, we're getting two things. First of all, we're shutting our mouths, which is a really important thing. My wife still...
We need to do that more as husbands,
my wife,
right?
Yeah, my wife is asking me to do that way more.
Yeah,
and,
my wife would say the same.
I'm still struggling with that, but anyway. But if we can take a breath in, close our mouth, take a breath in through our nose, then straight away we're calm, and then respond to that situation. And if every single human being could do that, man, this world would be a pretty amazing place. Maybe that's my Miss World thing. I want everyone to take a nice breath before they say anything.
You got the hair from Miss World.
I'm in. I'm doing it.
It's actually one of the things that, one of the things we look at when digesting food. Because your gut has its enteric nervous system, it has its own nervous system. And as you know, like when we met, I wasn't religious, and me, you, and your wife have had the conversation about religion a lot. And one of the things I say to people is that just take that break before you eat. And I'll say a prayer, whether it's in my head, but I used to have 4 or 5 breaths in and out through the nose, just to get into that rest or digest mode. Is that something which you tell people?
100%. So on
not prayer.
No. Look, well, I kind of do a form of it. I'll be honest with you. So at so I run a men's mental health and wellness kind of retreats and workshops and stuff. One of the things we do, and it's not religious in any way, but it's about being grateful, and it also is scientifically proven. 10 breaths before you eat gets you into that parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest. So if you can do that through the nose, though, it has to be through the nose to do that, to access that parasympathetic nervous system. So that is really key. So take that time. And if you want, like, we even sometimes go a bit further. We hold hands and we just shut our eyes and we just think, like, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for these people here. And that's it. It's like a prayer, but it isn't. Whether you believe in God or you don't, or you believe in,
whatever you believe in.
The trainer over there is the overlord of whatever, then great. But gratitude, breathing, because then it's energy and science. You know what I mean? It's like, for me, I like that. I like a little bit of science. I like a little bit of woo-woo. Don't get me wrong, because I feel like there is a lot of that in the good energy and stuff like that. But I do think we do need some science as well.
Oh yeah, and it's science that when you see those people or you speak to those people that says this doesn't make a difference? Do you just say the science? What do you say to those people?
So look, as I said, there are going to be people that rubbish me, rubbish what I'm talking about, rubbish the whole thing of like breathing or whatever. It doesn't matter how you breathe. I think you just have to look around. Just take a look around at people and tell me it doesn't matter. Genuinely stop, go somewhere where there's a lot of next time where there's a lot of anger or something, or something like that, where there's a lot of like hate, and see how people are breathing. Watch people. Go to a rally or something, or go somewhere where there's some hate going on there, and watch people, watch how they're breathing, and tell me it doesn't matter. Because I'm telling you, I believe it does. Knowing what I've come through, knowing when I look at people, I watch people now like all the time, and you cannot tell me that it doesn't matter, because it does.
It's seeing that evidence for yourself, and I think one of the things that blocks a lot of people, and it blocked me for the cold dips, was because I had to do it. I had that. I don't want to believe it, because that means I have to get uncomfortable regularly.
There you go.
And so many times we're in this world where we're comfortable, and they always say life begins at the end of your comfort zone. It's this great quote to have on your wall or something, but actually, how many of us are getting out of our comfort zone quickly? I go outside in the morning, and however many times a week I say I do it, it's getting out of my comfort zone. Do I procrastinate? Yeah, it takes me a long while to like make my morning drink, or go to the toilet, or whatever it is. I find some jobs to do, then realise, well, I'm going to do it anyway.
Bro. Wait till February.
I have to smash the ice off the top and everything.
Wait till February.
But even things like getting the ice out of the freezer to put in there, that sort of stuff, that it's very much, there's a procrastination there. And I was so blocked. And I feel a lot of times people don't want to believe things are going to work, because then they would have to do it.
Right, and that's key. Is like what we go back to what we talked about with my friend Jason at the start. Our bodies don't want us to be uncomfortable. Our minds, they like our physiological being wants to be safe. It wants to survive at any cost. And in the modern world, what does that mean now? Well, it means not putting ourselves out of our comfort zone. It means sitting in bed eating hobnobs. It's way better for us. Our bodies think, because then it's safe. We're safe. Why do I want it? I don't want to go outside and wrestle a lion, or like any. You know what I mean? But that's what going in cold water will do. But when we can calm ourselves, when we can choose to do it, and that comes back to then mindset and realizing that if we choose to do something, it changes the vibe of it completely. It changes the energy, and that's why I then believe in energy and the way we talk and our mindset into stuff. Because if we choose to be uncomfortable, and we're comfortable with being uncomfortable, changes everything. Because then it's not a chore. Do I still have to go through a process? Hell yes. Every morning, mate. And I love cold water. Don't get me wrong, but I still go through a process. Doesn't matter. I just do.
Do you know
and
what,
sometimes I wimp out of it still.
It's them mornings when I'm procrastinating the most that I think, why on earth do I procrastinate with it? Because as soon as you're in and you get the breathing right, you feel good. But it's just that getting in. But
it's like any.
Have you read Comfort Crisis?
No.
Michael Easter?
No.
I can't remember if we had a conversation about it. It was Tom Williams had on the podcast from the show Alone. And in there, Michael Easter talks about getting into nature. Now, Tom had just won this show where you're in the Canadian wilderness. And you had to survive.
Told me about it, yeah.
And he'd been there for 36 days. And we spoke before he went in. He was, I'm thinking 70, 80 days. So when he gets the call on 36 days, he said it was actually then reintegrating himself in society that was hard with this sensory overload.
Yeah.
And he was just, literally, he was pretty much thriving. If he had his wife and son there, he would have absolutely loved it. He had like 20 bits of fish all smoked, ready to eat. He had a roast duck, which they didn't actually put on and everything. But watch the podcast and like look at it. But we were talking about getting out of your comfort zone and how people used to go on hunts for like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
And they would literally track down like buffalo and kill this buffalo. And people actually don't like silence. And it's powerful.
We're overstimulated and undernourished in the modern world. So, you know, how can we change that? Well, we can start, and the one thing we can start, and that's the easiest route in, is to shut our mouths and breathe through our nose, slower. Slower.
It's a new word as well.
Yeah, I've just made a word up. Slowly.
Get that oxygen in.
Lower. Yeah, slowly and lower. Just slow and low breathing, and that's it. And if you can start with that, then you start to take back some of your power of what you've got control over yourself. Like we have got the ability to manage what goes on here. Like we can blame the government, we can blame our parents, we can blame our friends, our wife, our cat, our dog, our ferret, or whatever it is. We can do all of that. But if you don't take responsibility for yourself and your own health, no one is going to. We can blame Tesco's for putting the sweets at the end of the thing. We can blame the big companies. Did they do it or did we ask for it? You know, like, what is it? Are we buying it? So are we, you know, yes, there's some dark advertising going on. Yes, we know there's stuff pulling us in, and yes, but we have the choice. So let's choose, first of all, to be able to get more oxygen to our brain first. That must help everything.
It's a pattern interrupt in itself.
Like surely, like, you know, I'm not saying anything that isn't, you know, I'm not telling people to go and like, you don't have to go and do ice baths. You don't have to go and like live in a mountain. You don't have to eat grass. You don't have to like, you know, meditate for 7 hours a day. But if you just close your mouth and breathe through your nose a little bit slower, you'll see some improvements in your health and in your mind. And that could be the start of everything. Do you know what I mean? It really could. So I implore people to just try that, because the key thing here, again, I'm going to steal this from my brother from another mother, Jason Vale, it will do no harm.
Yeah.
Like, that is it. You can argue me all day. You can get 50 scientists. You can get exercise, sports psychologists, scientists, everything. Even one of my favourite people on the internet thinks that breathing doesn't make a difference. RP periodization, Mike Israetel.
Yeah.
He thinks it's, you know, a bit of a whatever, but he can argue, because he does jiu-jitsu, and I've heard
very
him
scientific.
I've heard him breathe, mate, when he's doing jiu-jitsu, and he sounds like he's gonna die.
I've spent time with him in LA, and like with him, and
love him. I love him.
Yeah, and he's an awesome guy, so knowledgeable.
Yeah,
but it is that whole. Is there a blockage there?
But
and
that's
if we
what he
explore
believes.
That blockage,
yeah, he believes that.
And this is like us guys. We can be stubborn. we can be so stubborn.
Yeah,
especially when it comes to asking for help. Yeah. When it comes to saying we need that help. So I'll say to people, do you snore? And there's this whole aspect of pride. No, I don't snore. What would your wife say? Oh yeah, like, James snores all the time or something like that. Well, actually, if you're a snorer, we can improve your health.
Yeah.
Because what are the repercussion of snoring? Well, you're not getting as deep sleep, as good quality sleep, good oxygen in there. You're not recovering as well. So that's going to impact you during the day, which leads to worse decisions with food and everything else. So where do we start?
You've got a form of sleep apnea. If you're snoring, you've got a form of sleep apnea. If you've got a bit of weight on you, apparently if you've got over a 17-inch neck, as well as a man particularly, then you've got sleep apnea of some description. And what sleep apnea is that it's dysfunctional breathing that wakes you up in the night. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. So if we can manage that, and one of the biggest things that you can do to manage that is to close your mouth at night. And if you have to force your mouth shut, because here's the thing, they say, well, they didn't do it when they were cavemen. That's because cavemen weren't fat.
Yeah.
Like, cavemen weren't fat.
And they weren't getting exposed to all these toxins as much.
And they weren't getting exposed. They didn't, they couldn't order Deliveroo. They couldn't do it. You know, so these things, like, they weren't, their facial structures were completely different. You know, so we could argue all day
They
long.
had legitimate stresses to run away from.
Exactly. So their bodies were working correctly.
It's not to say that people's stresses aren't legitimate to them, because it's how we see in the psychological aspect. But there were tigers and lions.
But that people also say as well, they didn't live that long. Yeah, they didn't live that long because they didn't have people pumping them full of stuff to try and keep them living longer. It doesn't mean we're living better. Who sees people walking around? And I've done it. I've felt rough as well. You know, when I was on drugs and all of that, I just was a zombie. I wasn't living. I thought I was, but I wasn't. You know, so who else we're just wandering around, not really living, but we think we are. It's like,
we're surviving.
I think we are surviving, and we're not doing a very good job of it, because look at us. We've never in any history, and in history before, the world is more obese. There's more diabetes. There's more, all of these, like, you know, lifestyle issues, diseases, lifestyle diseases. There's more than ever. Come on, what does that say? And I'm not, you know, degrading anyone, or I'm not saying any of that. But can we do better? Yeah, we can. And if we start, I think, with the thing that is the easiest thing in the world to do, close your mouth. You don't have to worry about what you're eating or what. Just close your mouth and breathe a bit lower and slower. It's like we're not. And if you really want to go more into it, then that's like what I do and what we're going to obviously be doing more to help. Yeah, and really helping people optimize that, and then everything else starts to work better. Then let's look at your bloods. Then let's look at your food. Then let's look at your But first of all, let's look at your breathing. Let's look at that. How is that impacting our lives? Then I think it's absolutely, you know, it's invaluable.
It's powerful.
But then that's my confirmation bias again. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, but you're seeing results with people. Like, I could say my confirmation bias is seeing the cholesterol issues and how we then fix them up by improving liver function and then movement and lowering fats and whatever it is. But you see it.
But that's
on blood
not.
tests.
But again, what you're saying is not. You wouldn't get people on statins. You'd say just looking at maybe the fats isn't the problem with the carbohydrate. Maybe it's the sugar and the, you know, like the fake carbohydrates. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like, again, that's what doing blood testing does. That's what looking at people's diets. But ultimately, it's a holistic thing. If again, it's not enough to just, if you want to lift, like for instance, bodybuilders, you know, they will smash loads of whey protein. They'll smash, you know, loads of carbs, this, that, and the other. It doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. It's not. It just.
I'd argue that the way I used to do it, competing in bodybuilding, was the wrong way to do it.
There you go. And you only got to look at, there's people on the internet now. I think they've gone a little bit the other way into, you know, like too much the keto and too much fat. Because I actually did too much fat, and I think it was actually hurting me. So I've had to kind of balance that back a little bit as well now, you know what I mean? So I do think, but can you get carbs from decent sources like honey and, you know, some fruits and things like that? Yes, you can. And then you can also add in a bit of sweet potato, as long as your lifestyle is appropriate to that, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? If you're sedentary, then you don't want to be smashing 300 grams of carbs a day, you know, because that's going to cause you problems. And again, we'll go back to breathing. If you've got more weight round here, your breathing will be dysfunctional, male and female. Well, so think about that.
Let's look at food. Just like one more question before we go into anything else. That when we look at food, and if I have times that, and I'm not this kind of like perfect person when it comes to food. Yeah. I've had times when I've emotionally eaten, or say it comes to Christmas time, I have a couple of days off.
Yeah.
If I have processed food, what's the first thing that happens? My nose bungs up. So what's that night's sleep like? It's bad. So then the next day I have less energy. But when I see Christmas is a big one. So we'll usually have Christmas Day, and I'll say my 2 days of having what I want. There'll always be no gluten because I know it gives me migraines, but I have what I want, and then I'll get back on it. That's 2 days. I feel so bad on that third day. And I don't see how people have so little nutrients in their diet. Well, actually, no, it's not little nutrients. It's an overload of nutrients, so we say, but all the time. And recognize that these are the things that are bunging us up. Because I've said to people, you need to breathe through your nose more, and they say, I can't because I'm bunged up.
Yeah.
Well, let's just look at what's bunging you up.
Yeah, mate, I agree. It is, again, we go back to the chicken and egg scenario. Are they dysfunctionally breathing because their diet is out of whack, or is their diet out of whack because they're dysfunctionally breathing?
Yeah.
Like, we have to have a balance on both. You know, no one's going to eat like me. You know, I'm pretty regimented, you know, like my buddy, you know, I was speaking to him the other day and he's like, mate, you are like, no one eats like you that I know, you know, and I know I'm pretty on point, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean I'm better or worse than anyone else. It just means I found a way to, you know, I know that stuff didn't do me much good, you know, all the crap I was eating. And, you know, you only had to look at my body. You have
to feel the difference to know it, though.
Yeah, you do. I think I really do feel so much better when I don't eat food. And look, again, we go back to Dr. Mike Israetel and stuff. He will say there is no bad food. And, you know, and I agree there's no bad food. But there's food that is optimal for human beings.
And people react differently to food as well.
100%. You can't just blanket say that everyone's, you know, everyone can eat, you know, like, can drink Diet Coke because the amount of aspartame in there isn't a lot. And, you know, over time, but like they have to eat, like, drink 50 cans a day. Is that, like, is it true or is that just some scientific papers have said that? And then you've got to go one more. Who paid for those scientific papers?
Yep.
There's a lot, like, so, and this isn't a conspiracy theory. If you're looking for that, there's other podcasts, but there are facts that you've got to delve deeper. That's what's going on with Russell Brand at the moment. Bless him. He's delved deeper into stuff, and they've gone after him. Whether he's done anything wrong, I don't know, but there's always another layer to the onion that we can peel back and have a look. And a lot of these big companies, they pay for these tests. And again, it goes back to confirmation bias. So
we don't want to go too deep into the
we
politics.
Don't, but I know
so we could be here for another hour or two.
But it's like it's taking responsibility. Again, I'm going to go back to taking responsibility for our own health. Mm-hmm. If we trust the big pharma, the big corporations, the government too much, just like if we trust some flipping floppy-head idiot talking on a podcast,
just because someone's got followers and so on.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's look, guys. Let's try and again take a gentle breath in through the nose, and then let's get a bit more oxygen to the brain, and then let's make a response. Let's think logically from there. Let's look at the overview of everything. Let's look at what's going on in the world, how sick we are, how fat we are, how all of these things we are, and let's look at what we can do about it for ourselves.
That's powerful. And I know we've spoken about, if anyone's interested in speaking to James about what he does or what I do, we're actually going to be combining our services for a few people to, it's the whole puzzle, right? Because we don't want that missing link where someone's not getting the results because they're not breathing or because they haven't checked their blood chemistry and looked at nutrient deficiencies. So how can people get in touch with you?
So on Instagram, James O'Keefe NRG, and it's Unguarded Warrior as well on there. And then we're going to be putting something out as well. So, you know, it's just get in touch with you or whatever, you know, we can just, and again, so get in touch, you know, either Instagram or, you know, just DM you or, you know, whatever it is, just get in touch, because again, it can be such a simple process, you know, but the free things you'll pick up today is because I always want to add value. Yep. We both do, you know, but the biggest thing is just listen to some of this, do a little bit of research yourself. But while you're doing that research, just try breathing through your nose and breathing a little bit slower. That is it. I would just say, just try that and see, you know, how scenarios can be better, you know, how you can manage your emotions better. And that is all we can. I'm going to leave you on one thing. I'm a firm believer in that we have no control over our environment, absolutely none. So anything could happen now. Ollie could get up, slap me around the face, could call me whatever, tell me I'm wrong, this, that and the other. Yeah, anything could happen. It's how I manage my emotions and my responses to what goes on. That is key. And cold water and breathing has helped me catapult my emotional intelligence to a level that I wouldn't think I could, and that I'm grateful for. But and now I'm trying to get that message out there to people to breathe, take a moment, and then respond to stuff.
Well, thanks for the time, and guys, hopefully you got something powerful from that. Thanks for listening and watching.
Appreciate you, mate.